Hello there, plant people. So this is my first plant YouTube video. I'm an educator. I got the summer off. Why not? So today I'm going to be talking to you about 5 mistakes that I made when I first started with houseplants. I now have about 250 houseplants, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And so I want to help you guys learn from some of the mistakes that I made before you make the same ones yourself. So the first mistake is classic mistake, over watering. So number one, do not overwater your plants because they're very susceptible to root rot. So growing up, we were on like a once a week watering schedule, and my mom had me go around and water the plants once a week as a little kid. And so naturally, that's what I started doing with my own plants. And so the issue with this is plants have different watering requirements. They're from different parts of the world. They have different survival mechanisms. And so once a week is much too often for most of your classic house plants that you're going to have. I have 2 that require once a week watering, my poinsettia and then my polka dot plant. But the rest, honestly, are every 2 weeks. And then I even have a few that are once a month, which are my sansevierias as well as my ZZ plant and my succulents. So I'm honestly more on a once a week, sometimes once every 2 week, sometimes once a month watering schedule. And that has worked so much better, and I've been getting way less root rot. All right, number 2, and this is going along the same vein as overwatering, and that is putting plants into too large of a pot for their root system. So have you ever had a cutting, you root it, it's so pretty, it's got like half-inch root going, maybe a pothos, and you just stick it into whatever pot that you have? Well, if you think about it, a tiny rooting system is not going to have enough pull in order to actually suck all of that water out of the soil by your next watering. And so your plants in too big of pots are going to be very susceptible to root rot. So I actually noticed this on my own. I was noticing a lot of root rot with my plants. And so I went through and downsized my pot sizes, and everything has been working so much better ever since I did that. On to number 3. All right, so number 3 is buying plants for the space I wish I had rather than buying space for the house I actually have, or buying plants for the house I actually have. So I live in Colorado, which is a semi-arid climate, and I also live in a north-facing house, which totally sucks. Luckily, I'm moving soon. But sometimes I would go into a greenhouse and I would see these big, beautiful, prolific plants. And then I would take them home and they'd just decline from there. Because the conditions in my house were not anything like the conditions in the greenhouse with the light and humidity. So I think now that it's actually super helpful to look at the space that you have available in your house and shop for that, rather than just seeing the most beautiful, succulent, tropical thing and getting that just because it looks good, because it might not look so good in 2 months once you've had it in your house. All right, so this is one I actually have very recently started doing, which is mixing aerators into my potting soil. So that could be vermiculite, that could be perlite, that could be even sand, orchid bark, pebbles for your succulents. And that can really help just put some air into that soil so it doesn't compress down and kind of suffocate those roots. And so the roots have areas to kind of like snake their way through as they grow, and they're not just so compacted that they can't move. Because plants are living things, you know, they got to have space to move. So I've been mixing soils recently instead of just sticking my plants directly into pre-bagged potting soil. All right, and number 5. This one was the most surprising to me because as a child, I don't know if my mom ever rotated her plants, which is crazy, but I learned this the hard way. So I'll tell you a little sad story. I had a big, beautiful spider plant, and she was pressed up against the window. She looked super lush and tropical, and she actually grandmothered all of the spider plants in my home. So this was a pretty sad loss. I went to repot her, and as I went to repot her, I pulled her away from the window, and all the leaves and stems just snapped because they'd grown so dependent on my window over time, which I had no idea that you could actually kill your plants from not rotating them. So now I pretty much religiously rotate my plants once a week in order to prevent them from becoming too leaned over toward the light and to keep them upright and, self-reliant in terms of standing up. All right, so I just thought of one more. So here's your number 6 bonus. I used to spend too much money on plants. So a lot of people go to, your big box stores, your Home Depots, your Lowe's, and maybe greenhouses and stuff like that. But I've recently discovered a bunch of Facebook, like buy, sell, trade types of groups where you don't even have to buy a plant. You can just trade cuttings of your pre-existing plants. And then I've also discovered Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. Sometimes people are moving and they just can't take their plants with them. And so I'll actually just get free plants. Like last week, I got like $300 worth of free succulents because the lady was moving and she couldn't take the succulents with her. So anyway, guys, I hope you've learned from some of my mistakes. Hopefully I'll start making some guinea pig videos as well this summer, since I'm going to have some time, and more plant videos to come. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.